Thymesia's most defining feature is how enemy health works. In this game, attacking with your sword and peeling off the top layer of health is not enough. It merely exposes the enemy's max HP underneath it. If left alone for long enough, their life bar will pulse green and they will steadily regenerate until their health is back up to maximum. There are ways to delay or prevent this, and knowing them will help us kill enemies faster. In this video, we'll discuss inflicting wounds or stripping white health, damaging wounds or stripping green health, delaying regeneration with pokes, and attack type swapping. Anytime you light attack an enemy with your saber or deflect an attack successfully, you will deal damage to their white health and cause wounds. This damage is what eventually regenerates if you leave their green health alone. The amount of white health you slice off when attacking is determined by how high you've leveled up your strength stat. It can also be boosted by taking the sharp weapons talent in the saber tab. The simplest way to damage enemy wounds and reduce their max HP is by hitting them with claws. Doing this will prevent an enemy from regenerating beyond that new maximum. This saves your progress on a specific enemy's health bar. That way you can play safely for a moment against stronger enemies that don't give you obvious damage windows. Since you've damaged them permanently, they won't regenerate while you keep your distance and wait for an opening. You can focus on avoiding damage and don't need to worry about the progress you made due to staying passive. This is why it's important to claw enemies when you can. It confirms and locks in the damage you've done. The amount of green health your claws will permanently rip from an enemy's bar is determined by how high you've leveled up your plague stat, so if you want to chunk enemy green health, raise plague as you're leveling. Hitting an enemy with a fully charged claw, also called Predator's Claw, will remove a massive amount of green health from them, in addition to reaving their plague weapon for a one-time use. Getting the level 2 Predator's Claw talent prevents you from being interrupted, but you'll still take health damage if something hits you. Several plague weapons also remove green health. You can tell because their descriptions will say they deal claws damage. Another way to damage wounds and strip green health is far more barbaric. Simply keep slashing the enemy with your saber relentlessly. Eventually, when they have absolutely no more white health to shed, continuing to carve into their flesh will start chipping away at their green health. There is a more civilized way to rend the life from your foes, however. You are half crow for a reason. Fight like one. Wounded enemies will only regenerate when you're not landing any damage on them for an unbroken period of time. Because of this, a useful tactic is regularly poking enemies with quick bits of damage to prevent them from healing. This damage can be anything, and a single hit is enough. Claw attacks are all typically slower than other types of attacks, even using the Short Claws talent, which commits you to bursts of swipes when you attack with them. There will be moments where you need to attack an enemy, but you don't feel comfortable clawing them. You can, of course, poke them with your sword, which is very fast, and something you can dodge out of pretty quickly. Deflecting properly with your dagger will damage them as well. That will also delay their regeneration. However, this is a risk when avoiding certain threatening attacks that you would rather space yourself away from. This is where poking with ranged actions comes into play. Ranged poking to stall regen is ideal since it keeps you out of danger if you're far enough away, which is usually where you already are. After all, if you were close enough to attack them with your sword or claws, you wouldn't be worried about them healing anyway. Feathers are the most available ranged poke, and yes, hitting an enemy with them stalls their regen. When in doubt, if you see their health bar flash, feel free to throw a feather. This benefits from taking talents that increase feather capacity or regeneration speed. Another ranged poke is using throwing knives, or flying daggers, from Twilight Circus acrobats. When you use flying daggers, you apply a buff to yourself, hiding knives up Corvus' sleeves. Your next 5 presses of the feather button instead cause you to dodge while throwing a knife at a targeted enemy. Once you've thrown 5 knives, or wait too long, the buff ends. If you level up your plague stat to 10, dodging through an enemy attack with your normal dodge button will give you 1 knife. Throwing knives at enemies doesn't cost any feathers, it only uses one of the knife stacks above your health bar. So if you keep dodging through them, and don't waste them, you can keep throwing knives for quite a while. The bow plague weapon from archers in the Royal Gardens and beyond deals quite a chunk of damage, but costs a lot of energy to use, so be careful. It can be very good against some bosses that like to back away from you. The hand axe plague weapon from normal axe wielding Hopeless in the Sea of Trees can be upgraded with skill shards to let you throw it if you double tap the activation key. There are several other interesting range attacks that'll leave you to discover for yourself. Finally, another useful talent you should consider is Plague Wounds levels 2 and 3 from the Strategies tab of Corvus' talents. This increases how much time has to pass before an enemy begins healing, so it's highly recommended you pick this up at some point, unless you would rather use the points on something else. It should be clear by now that neither only attacking with your saber nor only attacking with your claws are the path to victory. This is especially the case for using Short Claw, But the best way to fight in Thymesia is often to create as many wounds with your saber as you can comfortably tear away with your claws in the next few moments. Swapping back and forth between your offensive options like this so you have a balanced attack flow is quite good for quickly dispatching enemies, and the same even applies to most bosses, just on a much longer time span. Note that some bosses will make it very difficult for you to land claw attacks to confirm the damage you've dealt to them. In those situations, I would advise you to look for more creative ways to land claw or plague attacks, such as finding some method to get into the air, so you can land on the enemy with a claw. That's all I have for you this time. If you're someone who's interested in Thymesia but you're a bit on the fence about it, if you can play it on a PS5, a Series X, or a pretty good PC, please feel free to check it out. I just beat the game last night and I'm working my way through various achievements now, but I feel like there's so much more to experience just because of how many varied plague weapons and talents there are. Thanks for watching, may fog shroud you, and may the night keep you safe.